Video 9. Chapter 28. The next morning, we left, making our way to Atlantis. I, for one, was glad we would be heading home. The land we were on was strange, and I really felt helpless, as the animals and such were a lot bigger than I was accustomed to. It was that night, when we made camp, that things went even stranger, I guess you could say. And again, I found myself helpless to do anything about it. I was in the hut. Yes, I had become at ease some with the area. Perhaps that was my mistake. Anyway, I felt a sharp pain in my chest that woke me from sleep. I stood and moved to the opening of the hut. Looking out, I saw this female come from Emmett's hut. I looked around and did not see Cyrus or Maverick as I watched her move into the wooded area. I made my way over to Emmett's hut to check on him. As I entered, he was sitting cross-legged before a low table. He looked up at me. "Something amiss, Law?" he asked. "Who is the female?" I asked him. He gave me a confused look. "What female?" he asked. "The one that just left your hut?" I questioned. "Law, I really think you should calm down and relax. It seems this land is getting to you." There was no female, he told me. As I read him, he was telling me the truth, or what he assumed to be the truth. A female just left this hut, just moments before I entered, I told him. I do believe that if there was a female in this hut, I would remember it. Go back to bed, Law, and get some rest. I really think you need it. You've been dreaming, he told me. I did not try to protest. However, I could not. And I soon found myself back in my hut and going to sleep. That was the first time Emmett had ever used his abilities against me. I woke feeling very lost, upset, angered, and a few other emotions I could not understand and should not disclose here. Maverick came to the opening of my hut. "Hey, boss, you ready? We are all prepared to take out and headed home," he asked me. I looked to him, then around the hut. Emmett pushed into my line of thought. "Where is he?" I asked. "Waiting on you. We are already ready to go," he told me. "Right. All right, I will be out soon," I told him. I felt as if I was in a dream. Something was not right. I could feel the malice in the air surrounding me. I dressed and got my pack and left the hut. Then things became even more awkward. I saw Emmett, and beside him was that woman I had saw come from his hut beside him. They had been talking, and she was laughing. His arm was about her waist. I walked over to him and looked from him to her, and the smile on her face was sickening. Who is she?" I asked, motioning to the female. "Law, I do believe you are coming down with something. You have been acting quite strange. You know this is Asia, my attendant. Go join the others so we may take out and head home. He told me again, using his abilities against me. Yet I blocked him this time. I could feel him try and break my block, yet I strengthened it. Emmett, what is going on? I asked. Prince Lawrence, I am not sure what has come over you. I am the high priest. You will do as I've ordered. He informed me. Great. This I did not know how to handle, or what to say, or even do about it. I decided to return his attitude and see if it made a difference. Yes, Your Excellency, as you say, I said and walked away. That did not work, as he allowed me to just walk away. I started out with the others and walked up beside Scott. Do you know what is going on with E? I asked him. He looked back to Emmett and Asia, then looked to me. Not a clue. My little brother has flipped. However, I fear if we try and break through whatever is going on here, it may not be good. We need to just get back to the Saltarn. You and I are the only ones that realize there is a miss here. He informed me, and I took a deep breath. Imagine that, I said, and he gave a nod, and we continued. As we entered the cruiser to return to Atlantis, I kept my distance from Emmett to not upset him, as he was not himself. This was for sure. I was sitting to the opposite side of him. Asia seemed to be sleeping. Emmett looked over to me. Law, you all right? He asked. I blinked and looked to him. I am fine. 'Tis you I am worried about, I told him. Why, I am fine, he insisted. Who is she, Emmett? I asked. You seem to have memory loss, my friend. She is my intent. We are going to be wed once we return back to Atlantis. Do you not remember truly? He asked, and again I blinked to him. Scott had said not to break through whatever was going on. So I gave him a nod. As you say, Your Excellency, I said, and he did not even try to correct me. When we arrived back in Atlantis, we continued to Valhalla. I did not say much to Emmett, nor he to me. Asia kept giving me this fake smile. When we entered the palace, we followed Emmett to the gathering. He then told the guards to inform the priestesses he had returned. I moved over to the fireplace mantel and took a lean. This should be entertaining to watch. It wasn't too long after the guards were sent to get Emmett's wives that they started to come into the room. Partina moved over to Emmett with Juanita behind her. Both Juanita and Partina looked to Asia, sitting beside Emmett, with her hand on his leg. They then looked to Emmett. It is good you have made it back safely. Has everything been taken care of? Juanita asked, as Partina, being Partina, spoke also. Who is she? And where did you find her? Partina asked. Then Charisma joined in, and I chuckled hearing her words. Next question is, when are you sending her back? Why is she sitting so close to you, and her hand on your lap? Stockard then added to the amusement. As Emmett stood, and Asia did as well, Emmett took her hand, and the man's words were of truth, or at least he thought them of truth. This is Asia. We are in love, and we will be married. She will become one of my priestesses. I want you all to bid her welcome. I also want you all to get the children so they may meet her as well. We will be joined the first day of the following new month. Emmett spoke, and for about 3 minutes there was complete silence. No one, I believed, even breathed. Then good old Partina and Juanita broke the silence. You are doing what? Juanita asked. You are what? Partina then said. Well, actually, they said it at the same time. If in fact I knew there was something wrong going on, I would have been enjoying this. Emmett, we need to discuss this, Partina then said. No, we do not. Do as I have said. There is no need to be questioning me, nor my wishes, Emmett said. His wives just stood there, and for a moment, and stared at him. They then gave a nod and left the area to find the children. I remained where I was, and said not a word. Soon the children came into the room, followed by their mothers. They called out their father and ran to him. Barbara came over to me and spoke quietly. What is going on? Father never calls us all together, as he just has. I merely waved my hand towards Asia. Who is she? She asked me. Just wait until you find out, I replied to her, as I really had trouble believing what was actually happening myself. She nodded and looked to Emmett as he started to speak, and she moved from me back to where her sister stood near Emmett. Children, I want you to meet Asia. At the beginning of the next month, she and I will be married, and she will be one of my priestesses. I expect you all to give her the respect she is entitled to. Emmett had said, Father, think about this. You need not 8 wives. Barbara said, I do believe trying to reason with her father. I love her and I will marry her. He then told them, How long have you known her? Because we have never seen her, Carradine asked. I have known her for some time, Emmett replied. At least 12 hours. Not a bad record for true love, Celicia called out. Stella, that is uncalled for. I have known her for longer than hours. Emmett replied back to his daughter. Father, the passing of the moon does not make a full day. The passing of 24 hours does, however, Barbara informed him. You could hear anger in her voice. I have no more to say, she then added, and looked to her sisters. I raised a brow at her as I heard them speaking silently to one another. It is no use. She has a hold on him. We have to find a way to break it. Let it go for now, Barbara said silently, blocking all besides her sisters, and for some odd reason me. Let us go, she makes me ill, Azrael silently said. The girls then started to follow Azrael and Barbara out of the room. Girls, Juanita called out to them. Keep walking, Azrael silently said. And they did just that. I stood silently by the mantel, just watching. 'Tis fine, they will come around. They just are young and do not understand, Emmett said. I was really laughing inside, as the 7 priestesses just stared at him, also in disbelief. Chapter 29. Emmett and Asia was sitting in the garden. I and Cyrus was standing to the side. It had been, I would say, 6 months after they had married, and she had not been winning any points with any of us. I had not been around Emmett as much after he joined with her. He always seemed to have something for me to do that kept me away from him, and I did not want to upset him, so I willingly complied, as there was no talking to him. I did, however, have Kurt and John to be with him. They were no threat to Asia, and I wanted to keep an eye on her one way or another. It was 6 passing of the second sun when Charisma came out into the garden and over to Emmett. "My lord, have you seen Damera?" "She is not in my office," Charisma had asked. "No, I have not." Emmett was saying when Asia spoke up. "The girl displeased me. I sent her to her quarters," Asia said. "She displeased you? What did she do?" Charisma asked. "She had not done as I asked," she replied. "Really now, I will go and have a talk with her," I heard Charisma say. "Charisma, if Asia sent her to her room for discipline, then let her be," Emmett said. "My lord, she has her studies to do. That is why I was looking for her," Charisma said. "Charisma, need I repeat myself?" Emmett asked sternly. I watched as she said nothing and turned from them and moved back into the palace. Then it was not after that too long before Barbara and Damera by the hand came out into the garden and right up to her father, and before any knew what had happened, Asia was slapped by Barbara right across her face. Asia's head jerked to one side with the force of the strike. "How dare you?" Barbara said, filled with anger. "Barbara," Emmett called and stood grabbing his daughter's wrist. "You do not strike your mother or a priestess," Emmett told her. "She is your wife. She is lower than that of a courtesan, and if she dares places another hand on Damera, Lord so help me, I will make it to where she wished she had never met you," Barbara said with fire in her eyes, jerking her wrist out of Emmett's hold. "Barbara, what are you talking about?" Emmett said as he let her go. "Tammy, turn around," she said, and then opened her dress, exposing her back, which had whelps made from a whip on her small back. "As I said, father, it stands. Do not send my courtesan to assist the bitch again. Tammy, come," she said, and then moved back into the palace. Emmett looked to Asia. "What did the child do?" Emmett asked. She placed her arms about his neck and moved into his lap. "Lover, really does not matter. She is yet a Dinah. She did not remain where I told her to," she said, sickening sweet, and starting to kiss him. I looked to her, and she looked straight to me. Then Scott came out to the garden. "Emmett, I need a moment with you, if you do not mind," Scott said. Emmett looked up to Scott and guided Asia off his lap and stood. "Of course, Scott. I will return in just a few moments." He kissed her and moved into the palace. She started to stand when Azrael, Magic, Connie, Jackie, Sherelle, Juanita, and Barbara came out of the palace. I watched as she sat back down. Jackie moved over to the table up on it before her. "So tell me, where are you from?" Jackie asked. "I am from Accra, remember? I told you that before," she told her. "You are not telling the truth, and we know it," Azrael said. "What have you done to our father?" Magic then asked. "Because whatever it is, you better be undoing it. If you touch my Tammy again, you will be sleeping with snakes and spiders and anything else I can talk into your room. Got me, Mother?" Jackie said, very stern and plain to her. I watched as she placed her hand up as to strike Jackie. "Do not even think about it, woman," Connie said, standing before her. "We know about you. However, you do not about us. Do not push us," Barbara told her. Barbara then reached and picked Jackie up off the table and placed her to her feet. "I love your father," Asia said to them. "You know, it's funny. The first time you said that, it was not true. Now it seems it is," Azrael said with a shrug. And she turned, and they all followed her back into the palace. That was the first encounter I knew that Asia had with the terrors. It would not be her last. It was the second month of the next year's cycle. Emmett was in the throne room, which was his office, and I was sitting on the sofa. He had not had some ridiculous thing for me to do. When Barbara came into the office, when Beth Ann came into the office and staggered to Emmett's desk. "Emmett, please help me," she said, falling into his lap. I stood quickly and over to Emmett and Beth. "Beth Ann," Emmett said, concerned. I watched as she went limp in his arms, and he looked to me. "Get a cleric and meet me in her chambers," he told me, picking her up into his arms, moving out of his office. As I got on the Calicom, I located one Kingdom cleric, then moved back up to Beth's room, where now most everyone was, as in the priestesses, Barbara and a few more of his children. "Where is she?" Jackie had asked, as I entered and stood beside the door, taking a lean on the wall. "She is over here in her bed," Emmett said, sitting on the bed with Beth. "Not Mom, the other thing. Where is she?" Jackie then screamed. "Jackie, calm down," Juanita said, moving to Jackie. "No, Mother, she is right. Where is she?" Azrael then asked, looking about. "I do not know. Emmett, where is Asia, darling?" Partina asked. "The last I spoke with her, she was going to walk in the maze," he said, and as he did, the girls took off out of the room. I looked at Emmett and Beth as the cleric came in, and Emmett moved away from Beth. "Emmett, I am going to go check on the children," I said, and moved to the garden. I saw the terrors standing at the opening of the maze. Then I felt Juanita behind me. Barbara turned and looked to me, then Juanita. "Mother, come here," she said, placing her hand out to her. Juanita moved to her and the others. I watched her take Juanita's hand, and then the hand of her sisters, see what we see, Barbara said. She is not of Acre, yet she is like those of Acre. I knew it as soon as I seen her, Jackie said. Juanita turned to me. Beth has passed over. Asia has some kind of hold on Emmett. I am not sure what it is, Law, or even how she has done it. He cannot see her true self, even if we were to show him, Juanita said. So what do we do? I asked. Get the sector and take it to him. Azrael, she said, and Azrael took off running with the rest into the palace. Emmett had came out of the palace and over to me. I looked to him, and neither of us said anything. There was nothing to really say as the girls returned and held the sector. Father, you need to have this, Barbara said as Azrael held it up to him. Children, what are you doing now? Why do you have the sector? He asked. Thought maybe it could help, Barbara said. The sector cannot bring back a life lost, Emmett said. Surprisingly how it saves them. Please, Emmett, I love you, and if you do me and any of us, take the sector in hand. Please. Juanita pleaded, as the others one by one joined us along with his brothers. He reached to take the sector, and out came Asia from the maze, and she looked at all of us, and then her eyes went to the sector, then to Emmett. Emmett looked to her as he took it in hand, not sure what happened to him. However, he went towards the ground. Scott and I moved to him. I reached, catching him before he hit the ground, as Scott caught the sector before either hit the ground. Asia acted all concerned and tried to come over to Emmett. The girls blocked her way. Get away from my daddy, Jackie said. Yeah, stay away from our daddy. Kirsten spoke up and pushed her back. Barbara grabbed Kirsten and picked her up in her arms. We took Emmett to his room and laid him on the bed, as Scott took the sector and returned it to the sanctuary. The whole time Emmett was out, we had to keep Asia away from him. Scott said that if she got near him again, she could just do what we just undid. So the whole time, we did not allow her near Emmett. And it would remain that way until Emmett awoke. Emmett recovered about 2 days of sleep, and he sat up looking to me, to Cyrus, then to his wives that were also in the room. Thought I told you to remain out of my bedchambers, he smiled as he sat up and back. You know how I listen, I smiled to him. E? Juanita asked. How do you feel, my love? Partina then asked him. Like I was set on by a dragon, or a mountain fell on me, he said, looking around the room. Where is Asia? He asked. We do not know, my lord, Charisma said. I owe an apology to you all, especially you, he said to Charisma. No, my lord, as long as you're safe and with us and back to the man I love, there is no need for apologies, she said with a tear in her eye, and he motioned for her. She went into his arms, and he held her, and she held on to him. He looked to me. "Have Asia located Law?" he ordered. I nodded and went to find Kurt. And we searched. We searched out all over the palace. I went outside. I made my way to the maze where we had seen her in the fountain. It took me quite a time to find my way around it. I really disliked that maze. I always ended up lost in it. However, when I made it to the center, I found Asia. She was in the state of the mermaid, as we had seen her before. Her head was back and her eyes were wide open, and down on the ground beside the fountain was a small bottle. I picked it up and smelt it. It had smelled sweet, like Isen, which is the oil from the Isen plant. The oil smells sweet and inviting. However, it is very poisonous. One drop of it said to take the life of a mortal and make an immortal very ill, and cause twilight, and it looked as if she drank an ounce of it. I took a deep breath and moved back through the maze. As I found my way back through the maze, I moved up to Emmett's chambers, not really sure how to tell him she had taken her own life. As I stood there, just really looking at him, trying to find the right words to say, and not to sound heartless. "Law, what is it?" he had asked. Asia, I said, trying to find the right words. "Lawrence," he questioned. Asia has taken her own life. She is in the center of the maze," I told him. He really said nothing, just gave me a nod. Alright, this is the end of the first part of my story. I hope you enjoyed it. The second part is coming soon.